Hey everyone, how's everybody doing today? Wow, sorry I'm late again. I was up, excuse me, I was up pretty late last night working on another video and I just woke up about an hour ago. Anyhow, good to see everyone here. I'm so glad you guys are very patient with me when I come on these streams, because it seems like I'm late more often than not, but as always, I try to be here every week, twice a week, doing live streams, answering your questions on Olympus cameras, workspace, photography in general, and catch up on what's new. And also, I have a live stream that follows this one, where I edit your photos live, and time to time I put my pictures out that you can edit and send back to me. So if you look at my channel, you'll see a second live stream today where you can download an image or submit an image to have edited live. And then again, you can download my image and edit it, and I'll show it on during the live stream, because I'm always curious to see what people do with images that I thought weren't particularly very good, either compositionally or technically, and see what you guys make of it. But wow, let's see who's here today. Patrick, Andreas, awesome. Leon, Peter, Christian, Marcia, Michael White, how are you? Plato, always good to see you. And let's see, Archery, I'm sorry, and then Christian Johannes Apple. Oh, what an awesome name. My nephew is named Christian, but I like that Johannes in the middle. That really has a nice ring to it. Christian Johannes Apple. Alan, Jim, good morning, good morning. Or Alan's in Scotland. It's probably late afternoon there, right? But anyhow, good morning, Steve. Like I said, I was up late last night. I mean, all day. You're gonna laugh because I spent maybe an hour recording, and most of my videos, I mean, I just kind of sit down, turn on the camera, and just start to jibber jabber, right, and talk about cameras or gear or settings. And that's what I did. What was it? Friday evening when I started the video. And I said, okay, I'm done. I can get this out for Saturday, right? And then I started to play it back, and I forgot to turn the mic on. So there's an hour of footage of me just in total silence, So I had to redo all the tests again, because I tested 4 or 5 different cameras, comparing them against each other. So I got up yesterday morning and did it again, made sure the mics were on. And then I went to play it back, and because of my dying eyes, I can't really see when things are out of focus, but I had my normal autofocus on with face detect, because on the M1s, they're very reliable. But the Pro, the 12 to 40 Pro lens has the focus ring just like the 17. I had this engaged, so it was in manual focus the whole time. So I wasted another hour, or more than an hour at that time, recording everything out of focus. And so I took a break. I said, you know what? I'm just trying too hard, maybe. So I took a break, and then I came back. I made sure focus was set. I made sure the microphone was on. I had the lighting, proper white balance. And then I sat down, and I finally cranked it out. But I probably added, about 2,000 shutter counts to every camera I own. Because like I said, I was testing 4 or 5 different cameras. Wow. But that's how my week has been since I saw many of you on Thursday, my last live stream. It's been dealing with just total, I should make a checklist, right? Microphone on, check. Autofocus on, check. White balance, check. It's like a checklist. That's not a bad idea. At least I had a memory card in there to record and make sure that I didn't just sit there for an hour without even recording to begin with. Because that's happened before too, believe it or not. Or sometimes I just forget to hit the record button, and that did happen in the final recording. Because between each camera, I would stop the recording and start it again. So one of the cameras didn't get recorded at all when I was doing the testing. So I had to, after I got to that part of the editing, I was like, crap, where's the M5 Mark III at? No video. So I had to go back, sit down, set up again, record the M5 Mark III. Fortunately, everything was still in place, and I got it. But I'm going to try and post the video tonight or tomorrow. I still have some decisions on that. And there'll be parts of it that are out of focus a little bit. Because I might have to re-record it, but I'll be wearing a different shirt, which is kind of a continuity problem, right? But maybe nobody cares, I'm wearing a different shirt in the same video. I could put the same shirt on, but then it still doesn't look right, because I'm a couple of days older now, right? And you'd think that wouldn't make any difference, but you can tell. You can tell sometimes. Oh, let's see. John says, hi, John. Says, I'm using your Fujifilm Velvia simulation in EM. Oh, that's right. You posted in a forum that you wanted some film simulations you could put in your EM10. And assigned it to my set 4 and FN2 button so I can switch it from any processing. So quick and it works great. Yeah, the Velvia simulations, in case you guys don't know, I have a on my website and in my forum. But in the forum, there's a post by John in the Fujifilm camera section looking for some Fujifilm simulations. So for his EM10, it's different on the Pen F, because the Pen F you can dial in color saturation as well, but on the M10 it's not quite as close as the Pen F versions that I have for simulating Fujifilm, like Velvia and Chrome and Provia, etc. But I listed out all the settings for the EM10 in there. And then if you go to the website, which is, just back one link, on the website I have presets that you can download for Olympus Workspace that plugs in, applies like Fujifilm-like settings. They're close. They're close on some images. On some images, they're not so close. Fujifilm, the film simulations, there's a lot going on with those. It's very, very hard to duplicate by an amateur like myself. So I was able to take a couple of images and compare them side by side with my XT30 images and my EM10s and Pen Fs, and for several images they came out very, very close. You can still see some slight differences, but then other images not even close, particularly when it got a little bit darker. So Fujifilm is definitely applying some tone curves to the individual color channels that are very, very hard to duplicate. But I might get there. As I get better with playing with the colors in Workspace, I might be able to come up with some other film simulations you can download. And they're all free. They're all free on my website. So if you're interested in trying some, give it a shot. Let's see. Christian's asking, how many pictures do you take per year? Well, I mean, I probably take probably about a third of the images are useless. They're just test shots. And then let me just pull up my Lightroom because I catalog everything in Lightroom. This year, it's already June, and I'd say more than half the images are just test shots, you know, like 20 pictures of my feet or my table. But 2019, last year will be a good representation. See if I can pull it up for you. Nope, not that one, this one. So here's 2019, 53,000, but that's raw and JPEG, right? So if you look here, I got 22,000 raw images. So yeah, I did 22,000 images last year. But you got to figure probably 3,000 or 4,000 of that are like time-lapse shots, right? Where you take like 1,000, 2,000 images at a time. So 3,000 to 4,000 of those are time-lapse, and then probably another couple thousand are just test shots. So I would estimate that roughly 15,000, right, are legitimate shots at a minimum. And then out of those 15,000, you have to take out probably half of those for my pro work, right? That I do the real estate photography, architectural photography. And in those shots, those kind of jobs run 300-400 images each. So that's going to probably take out half. So personally, probably about 7,000 images that I take for myself. I'm just guessing. 2018, let's see, 14,000 raw images. So half of those, I didn't do a lot of time lapse in 2018, so half of those are probably, so I'm probably did about 4,000 or 5,000 that year. And then you can see each year how many. Anyhow, that's that. So it's been increasing a little year to year. And I actually started around 2012, 2013, actually, when I bought a camera, a digital camera. An interchangeable lens camera, I should say, is really around 2012 or 2013 is kind of when I got into photography. Just a brief draw. Hey Rick, how are you? I've got a power outage that I need to go check. Okay. Eric says, Eric Gubat compared IBIS for video between the EM5 II and the Fuji X-T4. Ollie was in another league for an older camera. Yeah, the EM5 Mark II has the same IBIS as the Pen F. Those two cameras are really close and they do a really good job. The IBIS in my X-T30 is just lens only, so I don't know why I even said that. But yeah, the IBIS has always been excellent, and the EM1 Mark III, it's next level. I mean, from the EM5 Mark II to the EM1 Mark III, there's no comparison. Do a 2-minute test record and play it back. Yeah, like I said, it should be part of a checklist, right? Add that to the checklist. Just do a quick test shot. Let's see. Hey, Brian, how are you? Oh, okay, I'll check that out. FujiWeekly.com. That's interesting. FujixWeekly.com. I better, let me copy that out. I do want to look at that. Got it. All right, thanks, John. Have you tried the new Lightroom Classic preset? No, I haven't tried that. Regarding the ISO, I haven't tried that. It is messing me up though. I didn't realize they updated it because I was looking for my Lightroom. I'm like, where is it? You know, on my desk, and I'm like, they changed the freaking icon on it. So now I couldn't find it at first. I was like, where'd it go? Oh, so so no, I haven't tried it. I was the last couple of days I just been working on that video. And I'm going to try and crank out, I say this every week though, I'm going to try and crank out another couple of videos. I got some new stuff, and I mentioned this one last week or the week before, this little video transmitter, which is pretty cool. I'm having some challenges with it. It works great, but I'm having some technical challenges. And then I have another microphone, wireless microphone set that I'm going to be talking about too, which should be awesome. I haven't even opened the box yet, but that's going to open up some, you know, it's kind of video related, so I don't know. I never get any views on my product review stuff. But, you know, they send me stuff for free, and I get offers for stuff for free all the time. And I turn it down, and it's funny. Sometimes they're like, why? Why don't you want to review my product? And I'm like, well, you know, pimple removers just aren't really my audience. Or, you know, because I get weird stuff, right? Pimple removers and face masks and makeup. And the other day I got some kind of laptop cooler thing. And I'm like, you know, nobody cares about laptop coolers on my channel. You know, if it's photography related, I'll be happy to review it. The only serious hardcore product I ever really kind of ignored that was had some value. It's like a $500 thing they were going to send me for free, and it was video related. And I'm like, you know, I'd love to have it personally for my own stuff, but as a channel for my viewers, nobody's going to care about this kind of gear. You know, for video work, and I have very little use for it myself, other than very unique situations. It's more of a cinema production type product where you have multiple people working on a project, and this is really helpful. But you know, I'm just a one-man stand, right? So what good is that product going to do for me? So I need to email them and say thanks for the offer, but I just don't think my audience would care. I was thinking about starting a separate channel just for gear reviews, where I can talk about everything. Like I'm hardcore shopping laptops right now, and I could talk you to tears about laptops right now and computers. And if you think I have bad gas with cameras, you should see my computers. I got some serious gas. I gotta start getting rid of some stuff. Because I think about when I pass away, you know, if something should happen, you know, like I'm in a car accident, God forbid, the crap that people would have to go through in my house. and they wouldn't appreciate the value of some of the things, right? They just, like the camera gear, they'll just say, oh, look at all these little dinky cameras, you know, just donate them to Goodwill. And I'm like, yeah, and you and I would like just scream, right? It's like, wait, that's a freaking awesome camera, and that's not a cheap lens, and you know. Oh, let's see. New Olympus camera patented in Russia, and small Olympus camera developed for drones. No specs yet. Knock on the chin for MFT. Yeah. Like I said, Leon, you know, and I like your thumbnail now. I think before you never had a thumbnail. That's awesome. It's always nice to see people's faces. Oh, hey, David, how are you? I missed you there. Yeah, I got your email about another live stream coming up, or some. I got an email from yesterday. I have to look at that. I'll try and make those. I really had a good time in the last, you know, Zoom link, or it wasn't Zoom, but whatever we did. I miss you guys. You know, I kind of started a conversation with everyone, and then I fell off the map, right? But that's not intentional. Sometimes the schedules conflict. But yeah, the MFT, I don't know. You know, MFT is a decent sized sensor, certainly bigger than your camera phone, right? And close enough to APS-C that you'll get perfectly fine image quality, good resolution, and the lens selections. It just seems like an ideal system, at least for me, you know. I like the overall size and weight of the total system. Plato's saying, I wonder how many of your followers do video, thinking most of them are mainly stills. Yeah, most people are photographers on my channel. I mean, there's a casual interest in video, like where's the record button? But yeah, video is not a primary thing for most people. Most people that do video on the consumer side, they just buy a webcam and stream, right? Or they use their phone for video. It's good enough. And there's so many videos out there comparing like iPhone against a real camera for video, and in good light you cannot tell any difference. And you know, the phones are just amazing, right? They take great pictures, they take great video. In your pocket, you know, you can charge it while you're using it at the same time. I just don't like the handling of a phone and touchscreen. I hate touchscreens, and I just can't take a picture with a camera phone. I will when I have to for just stupid things, but if I want to take a picture, I'm going to use a real camera. It's just how my brain works. I'm wired for holding a real camera and pushing buttons. Oh, Angtree, thanks for coming in. Greetings. My first visit to your chat. Thank you for all your videos. Oops, got scrolled up there. I've just bought the EM10 Mark II after collecting and using OM for years. Yeah, the OM cameras were awesome, right? Really well built, compact for 35mm. Makes me want to go out and shoot some film. God, I gotta get out and shoot some. I haven't really been out on photo walks because of everything that's been going on. But I'm glad you found them helpful. You know, I haven't made any hardcore tutorials on the M10 in a while, but the older ones are still just as valid, right? I should redo them though. Lysippus asks, what do you think of noise reduction software, whether Lightroom or third party, for reducing the effects of high ISO, and is it worth the money? I've only tried briefly the one by Topaz, and the way it works is, you know, it uses some kind of artificial intelligence to identify the subject and try to bring the details out in that, reduce a little bit of the noise. Because if you reduce the noise too much, you know, it's going to smudge the details. But then anyway, it tries to bring as much detail as it can without bringing the noise, and then reducing the noise everywhere else hardcore. Because the rest of the frame doesn't matter if there's no detail, and it does a good job, I would say. The few images I tried it on, because I tried it on some birds, like on my bird feeder, and it was a little spotty, and I know you can fine-tune and adjust things on it, but once I got a feel for what it was doing, I said, you know, it's not something I need, you know, because I don't mind noise too much, and if I take a noisy image, there's very little really software it can do. It can make it a little better, and it's fine for printing small prints and things, but there's not much you can do about it, intelligent software or not. So there's people that love it, and I think, I haven't watched them, but Peter has a couple videos on Topaz, and I think Leon or Leo uses it and loves it. So the best thing to do is just download the 30-day trial and see what you think of it. It was about $85 when I was looking at it, I think, and I didn't think I needed it for my use, you know, because I can get pretty close, if not better results, reducing noise myself in Lightroom if I need to. And the automatic noise reduction when you have a raw file in Workspace works really well too. Angry says, trying out my old lenses with it. What do you think of this? Oh yeah, I used to do that all the time. I would adapt the best lenses for the EM10 Mark II on the from the OM system is like 24mm f2.8, the 50mm f1.8, and the 135mm. Is it the 135? It's one that I've been meaning to buy. It's like $50. The 135 f4, or I forget the speed of that one. It's since the camera store, local camera store had one for $50, and I should have bought it. But then they sold it, so now I can't remember what it was. But those two, at least, the 24 f2.8 and the 20 and the 50 f1.8, are excellent on the EM10. And I have a video where I use the 50mm f1.8 on the EM10 Mark II, and then I have another video where I use the 24mm f2.8 on my Pen F. It's the Kodachrome video for Pen F. So you can look at that video to kind of get some idea of how it looks. But yeah, fabulous. I really love using that 24 on my Pen F. Oh yeah, phones. Jim Jones is making a comment that phone videos will do longer than 30 minutes too. Yeah. Michael Moritz says, Rob, it seems as if the images in my EVF are overexposed, and when I correct for that, they are underexposed on my computer and in print. How can I correct that? Well, you say you're trying to correct for it already. I don't have an answer. All I can tell you is that in good light, you get about a plus or minus 3 EV range viewable in the viewfinder or on the live view, meaning if your shot's over or underexposed by more than 3 stops, it's not going to reflect the true exposure in the live view or EVF. So I can, for example, if I take a picture of the backyard and I overexpose it by 3 stops, that will be accurately represented in the live view or EVF. If I overexpose it by 5 stops, what I'm seeing in the live view and EVF is actually only 3 stops overexposed. And this is usually an indication, there's some indication on the live view screen or in one of the icons will be blinking, telling you that the exposure you're seeing in the viewfinder is not accurate. So when you have those over under exposure situations, look to see if there's anything blinking. You know, it might be the aperture value blinking, it might be the shutter speed blinking. Something will be blinking in the live view or EVF to tell you that what you're seeing in the viewfinder is not accurate to what the final exposure is. But what I've had to do in those situations where I'm over or under by 3 stops is take a sample picture and look at it, you know, on the back of the screen. That's all I can do. You know, adjusting the brightness helps sometimes when you're outdoors, but I usually just leave it on auto bright. There's a setting for it to automatically adjust the brightness. So maybe you can change that to be a fixed brightness for the EVF instead of having it on auto. that's the only advice I can give is maybe fix the brightness of the EVF instead of having it on auto, and then take a sample shot and then preview it. And but okay, that's all I can say. Raj says, good morning, love your tutorials. I'm new to photography and got an OMD M2 as a hand-me-down, and your channel has been fantastic help. I wish they were all continue to be labeled, and I think right now it stops at 19. Any other tips to navigate your channel? Yeah, you can go through my playlist. So when you go to my channel, you'll see a menu item says playlist, and you can look through those and see if that helps. I do need to organize those a little better, but I've tried to organize it by camera, like EM10 tutorials, EM5 tutorials, then general tutorials for macro or flash. So you can try that way. The only other way is to just look at all the videos and skim them. I'm sorry. Oh, Angry, thank you. The 135 f3.5, that's the one. I didn't think it was f4. That's why I kind of hesitated a little. The 28-28, okay. I think you should go for the 24 if you can. It's a little bit more expensive than the 28 though, isn't it? The 24 is just wide enough. 28's a little bit tight. It's good for portrait work though. Nature with Music, glad you could join us. Man, it's 10:44 already. I don't use the highlight shadow feature. Oh, Bob is talking to Michael. I'm sorry. If all else fails, factory reset. You can, right? I would do a basic reset first, because a lot of times, you know, I'm sure Michael has some presets and things on the EM1, on the EM2 M2. There's, I think it's an EM1 M2 is what he means. Oh, there it is. So, yeah, and the EM1 Mark II, you know, has an LCD EVF, so the colors are a little bit less contrasty too, as well. I mean, ultimately, the EVF is only good for composing. Just like the old optical viewfinders, you compose your shot, and then you have to chimp and see if it's the right exposure. I mean, you do have the histogram ability too, to kind of gauge your exposure. But unless you're used to looking at histograms, you know, and it's kind of small on the viewfinder too, but Roger's saying a bit late, which is best, the 1.4 or the 20 MC with the 40 to 150? The 20 MC, what is that? I don't know what you mean by 21 MC or a 1.4. You know, what focal length at 1.4? If I were going to choose a prime to go with the 40 to 150, I'd probably get the 17 millimeter. The 17 or the 25. Those are two really good focal lengths that complement the 40 to 150. The 20 millimeter, you know, Panasonic makes a 20 millimeter pancake lens, which is really good, but it's a little bit slow to focus, I hear. So if you can deal with that, it's okay. Otherwise, you know, Olympus 17 f1.8 or 25 f1.8, those are really excellent lenses. I'm not aware of any rumors, Amir, about wide-angle lenses. You know, I look at 43rumors.com for my leaks and rumors. uh, so, and I haven't been there lately. Oh, the MC20 teleconverter. So you have the 40 to 150 Pro, and you're asking about the teleconverters for 1.42. Duh. I would say get the 1.4 first. Because that'll keep the lens fairly fast. It won't narrow the aperture too much. Because usually with long lenses you want plenty of light, and the 1.4 is going to give you better light. Not quite the reach, but I think light is more important with longer lenses. And then save up for 2.0 later, because they're both very good, but they're just different. They just different multipliers, right? So it depends what you need. If you definitely need more reach and you got good light, then the 2x is the better deal for you. But if I were to, if you know, if you're asking me as a blind question, I'd say start with the 1.4. Thanks, Mike. You know, since I don't have that lens or those teleconverters, personally, it doesn't click that, yeah, he's talking about the teleconverters. Weather in UK looks next week, so I will go out with my new 40 to 150 and 300 and teleconverters. Man, you are stacked over there, right? Man, 40 to 150. Those are two lenses and two things I really would love to have, but I have very little need for it. They would just be kind of fun to have kind of things. But that's a chunk of change. I need a new computer before I get any of those things. Bob thinks the highlight shadow feature helps them, you know, with the histogram to correctly expose shots most of the time. I think you're talking about the highlight shadow blinkies, right? It blinks like red and blue for highlights and shadows. And if you tweak your histogram a little bit, you can tighten that range as well. Tweaking the histogram by meaning you can set, there's a setting in the camera for histogram. I have a video on it where it'll trigger those blinkies to come on a little sooner. All right, Rick is back. Peter's mirroring what I said, that the 1.4 is the best regarding focus and long end focus speed. And he sold his 2x. Wow. And Nature with Music says he's tending to use the 1.4 as well. And then occasionally the 2x. So that makes sense. I mean, I'm you know, my opinion is very anecdotal from what I see other people are doing and what I think would make sense, but there's some people that actually own it telling you what they think, and it happens to be in line with what I think this time. Oh, you know what? I need to get this fan off my microphone. There. It's still coming in a little bit, but it's too hot in here for me not to have a fan on. Oh, okay, I need the lenses for doing wildlife. There was a great deal with where you got a free 1.4 and 2x. Wow. Wow, if I could get the 40 to 150 with free teleconverters, I might actually do that. Because that's 500 bucks worth of stuff there at least. So you reduced them by 5 at each end. Yeah. I reduced mine by 10 on each end. I think whatever the max is, 245 and 10. I do it by 10. I just max it out. I'm kind of like, it's kind of like Star Trek, right? It's like, you know, you have impulse power and you have warp 1 and you have warp 9. It's like the universe is so big. Why would you go anywhere at warp 1 or impulse? Just, ensign, warp 9, engage every time if I wanted to go somewhere. Why waste time? Not that setting it lower is wasting time. I'm just saying, it's just in my brain, it's like I just max things out, Let's see. Rick says the 4150 Pro does not have inland stabilization. You would find that the MC20's 2x magnification means you often need a tripod, whereas the IBIS can cope with a MC14. Ah, that's very good advice. That's true. Without inland stabilization, when you're using a 2x teleconverter, particularly when you get over 400 or 500 millimeter equivalents, the lens stabilization, the in-body stabilization would have a hard time with that. And I have a video actually where I attached a ridiculous 150 to 600 lens to my Pen F, and it was terrible. It was awful. I got great shots because it's a Nikon lens. I got great shots with it on my Nikon. But when I put that on my Pen F, it was a disaster. And, partially because of the IBIS, right? It was banging that little sensor around inside the body all over the place. And then partially, I think the pixel pitch of the Pen F, it's a 20 megapixel micro four thirds, was just picking up so many of the defects in the lens that I was not picking up with the Nikon, which is a 24 megapixel full frame. So it has nearly double the pixel pitch, right? So it's not picking up as many errors. Stabilization is an interesting subject, yes. Yeah, there's good videos by Peter and Robin on image stabilization. Peter Forsgaard and Robin Wong, they have really good videos on image. I've been meaning to do one. I still have trouble wrapping my brain around it because I just put it on auto and I don't think about it, But there are situations where you do want to set the image stabilization properly to be SIS 1, 2, or 3, depending on the photographic situation, mostly to do with panning. And when you start talking about panning, then you have to get into panning techniques as well. So it's one thing to just say, use image stabilization 1 for this, 2 for this, in this situation, do this. You could very quickly crank out a video talking about those generalities like Peter and Robin have done. And they did a great job. But for me, when I think about image stabilization and when using different types of image stabilization and applying those, you really have to put together the other skill sets that you need to have a reason to use the other image stabilization techniques, right? So when I talk about image stabilization, I can't just talk about image stabilization. I have to talk about the other photographic skill set that you need that would take advantage of those features, right? You can say, yeah, use SIS2 for panning horizontally, use SIS3 panning vertically, but then you tell somebody that and they do panning and they're like, well, this is crap, auto worked better. Well, that's because you didn't tell them, the skill set you need to do panning, right? So that's the problem with a lot of tutorials is they're very one-sided. They talk about, the technical ability of the gear and the camera, but then they don't follow that together with, you need this skill set to make this technical thing work properly or to get the most out of it. Otherwise, you know, because it's photography really is still 80-90% skill, and the camera, all of the bells and whistles that they have assist you as a photographer, assist you with that skill set. But if you don't have the basic skill set, it doesn't really matter what the camera can do. You know, you're still going to take bad pictures. So that's why the image stabilization video is so hard for me, because it's an area of photography that I don't really do, panning and other types of photography where these image stabilization settings make sense, right? And yeah, I like to talk about hypothetical or anecdotal type evidence sometimes, but if I'm going to make a tutorial, you know, when I'm talking about it, you know, just forming opinions, but when I'm making a tutorial, I want to be able to say, you know, this is the skill set you need for this particular feature to get the best results, right? So anyway, that's a long explanation for, or a long excuse why I haven't made an image stabilization video or a panning video, which I think Roman asked for last week. Panning video by itself is a little bit easier because you can have some margin of error, because the panning videos, there's 3 or 4 different types of panning that you can do, and panning shots. Combine that with a little bit of motion blur, and you can get some really interesting photography done. But to combine that skill set with image stabilization, which would be a proper video covering image stabilization, because if all you did was take static shots of still subjects, just leave the image stabilization on auto. Like, that's all I do, right? You don't really need to worry about it. It's only when you do more advanced photography or different types of photography where you do want to select those individual types of fine-tuning the image stabilization. Yeah, and then stabilization in video is a big deal. Yeah, panning handheld, gimbal, or tripod. I know, right? Because panning with a gimbal is easy because the gimbal does all the work, really. But the real trick is putting a gimbal on a tripod to get some really interesting shots. If you watch my video, it's just a little 1 or 2 minute video of my my car. I put my gimbal on my tripod to get a lot of those shots. I think if you search for Mazda on my channel, it's a Mazda video, and I combined my gimbal and my tripod together and got some interesting shots. I was just playing around. It's like a 2 minute video. All right, Peter from Maine, hello. And Nature with Music says, if I use my Panasonic lens on my EM1 Mark II, then necessary to turn off the lens stabilization. I don't know. I think it would depend on the focal length of the lens. If it's longer, like the 100 to 400, I would probably use the lens stabilization over the body. But Robin did a video on image stabilization about using lenses, and he got very specific about combining lens stabilization with body stabilization. And the gist of it that I got was that you don't have any control over it, at least with Olympus lenses. Olympus decides for you which one it's going to use, or use both, or one. I don't remember what he said about Panasonic lenses, but maybe you might want to revisit that video if you've seen it or haven't seen it. Well, now the panning video. Yes, you need to know about the speed of panning and the stabilization. Yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, you can do very amateurish panning and get some fun pictures, right? You don't have to be particularly skilled at panning just to play around, but when you talk about combining that with image stabilization, then you have to be very specific about your panning and your technique to get the most out of those settings in the camera. Eve Jenny says, Evgeny, I'm sorry, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. IBIS on the M5 Mark II and III and the M1 Mark II and III has been to be experienced to believe. I really didn't believe it was that good. Yeah, it's really good, especially on the Mark III, EM1 Mark III. Is there anything on the Olympus lens that does not work on my G85? I think the correct question, Renee, is what on my G85 won't work with the Olympus lenses? I don't know. The only things that come to mind is possibly the focus stacking that is built into those cameras, because that relies on controlling the lens in a very precise manner. That may or may not work. I really don't know, though. I did notice when I put Panasonic lenses on my Olympus camera, Pro Capture Low, like Pro Capture with continuous autofocus, didn't work. But Pro Capture High did, because it only has to focus once. So I would pay particular attention to any features in the GX85 that is focus related. Those things for whatever reason don't seem to work cross brand. You can't cross Olympus and Panasonic with those types of features. Yeah, image stabilization is different in stills and video, as Rick says. Because in video they add digital image stabilization as well, which can reduce your quality potentially, and it definitely crops in a little. Okay, Roger, we'll see you later. F. Jenny says, Ollie lenses on panel bodies do not have, oh, that's the big one, right? The depth from defocus feature is not available with Olympus lenses. So again, something focus related, right? And then there's always updates in the firmwares finding compatibility issues between brands and even within brands, you know. So always make sure you have the latest firmwares on your lenses and cameras. Lars used this 300mm with the MC20 at 1/6 of a second. I assume you mean handheld. That's pretty. You got some steady hands. I can barely hold a fisheye lens at 1/6 of a second. Never mind a 300mm with an MC20. Interesting comment about Pro H settings on Olympus cameras with Panasonic lens. Yeah, I found that when I was doing my testing yesterday on the, I was talking about the video earlier. I was like, where's Pro Capture Low? There's Pro Capture H. Where's Pro Capture Low? Because that's another video I'm going to be doing. That's not the one I'm going to post tonight or tomorrow, but I'm going to be doing some Pro Capture video. Just some testing of Pro Capture. And Renee says, thanks, since I bought the 12 to 150, or I'm sorry, the 12 to 50 EDEZMC from 2011, getting it tomorrow, already downloaded the 1.4 firmware. Okay, good. I would think though, Renee, you would need to install the firmware directly through Olympus Workspace. You wouldn't download the firmware separately. Maybe there's a way to do that. The only way I know of is you attach the camera and lens together, then you plug that into the computer use Olympus Workspace and it'll update camera and lens separately. Yeah, Lars is confirming it was handheld, which makes sense. I mean, you don't really get bragging rights if you do 1/6 of a second on tripod, right? It's kind of like, yeah, I held my camera, you know, I took a shot, 20-second, you know, exposure, and then people will be amazed and see, well, on a tripod, well, then nobody's going to be impressed with that. And yeah, Olympus has a special section for Pana update with camera. Yeah. Yeah, they do. So like I said, you always have to be conscious of the firmware updates. You know, every few months I just double check my updates. I don't think I've checked any since March, so it might be time to start checking again before I go out with a camera. I get about 80% success rate at 1 second handheld with a 25-1.8. Which camera do you have, Evgeny? I would imagine it's the M5 Mark II if you're getting 1 second handheld. The M5 Mark III and I can get probably 2-3 seconds. I've done 4 seconds. But yeah, 2-3 seconds, pretty reliable. On the M1 Mark III, 4 to 6 seconds, very reliably on the M1 Mark III. And, you know, then there's people that claim, you know, a couple of minutes, right? Handheld. But that's, you know, you got to hold your breath for 2 minutes. I can't do that. And Rick says, as Olympus and Panasonic are making their cameras and lenses become more and more software dependent or software centric, we should expect more and more compatibility issues. Yeah. Yeah, they can definitely cram in a lot of data into a lens to work with the camera, meaning software centric. Especially a lot of the corrections and things for chromatic aberration, lens distortion, and I'm sure there's other things that they can correct for that I'm not even thinking of, just by software, right? Renee says, had to pick silver M10 Mark III or black GX85, mostly doing video. You probably picked the right camera with the G85. I think that's the, I forget, I get them confused. People say Olympus have confusing names. Look at Panasonic. Wait, this is my Sony. Cameras, they all look alike, right? You just change the name on here and what is this? This is the GX85. So the G85, yeah, that's an awesome little camera. And funny story, Renee, I'm sure my other viewers know this already, but when I went to the camera store, I wanted to find a smaller camera than my Nikon. And I didn't do any research. I just went to the camera store. I says, I'm just going to get a small camera. And they didn't have a G85 on the shelf. But if they did, I might be a Panasonic shooter right now rather than Olympus. But I ended up buying the EM10 Mark II because they had one of those. And I said, oh, that looks like a nice small little camera. I'll take that. And they had the GX85 there too, I believe. And I didn't like the viewfinder on it. I thought the viewfinder on EM10 was better than the GX85. So, and I was primarily a viewfinder kind of guy back then. And so I went with the EM10 Mark II. But the GX85, if they had one there, because it's still a pretty small camera, but it has a decent grip on it. I might have gone that route. Let's see, I've just upgraded my Zuiko digital 14 to 54 to a digital 12 to 60. SWD, what is that? Hoping it'll be a touch sharper to go with the extra reach. You know, I don't think the extra reach from 54 to 60 is a big deal, but that wider 12 to 14, that's a big deal. That by itself is worth the money. Going from 14 to 12. But I'd be hard pressed to think that any of the images you've sent me, you know, during the live streams with that lens have been tack sharp. I am so impressed with that lens. I'd be surprised if the 12 to 60 is any sharper. The Pen F is a beauty, but the GX9 is more updated, better value. Yes. I would agree. I like the GX9, the little flip-up LCD on it, the viewfinder, and definitely the video specs are stronger. I think image quality-wise, though, they're about the same, but the GX9 might be technically a little better camera. But I think the Pen F has some features in it you won't find in any camera that I like. And it's still, of all the cameras I own, still my favorite camera by far. Not just for the cosmetics, but for the feature set that it has that you don't find in any other camera. And it's stuff that you can do in post-processing, but you know, I like to do it in camera, in the field, when I'm there, because when you see a scene with your eyes and you can make those adjustments in camera while you're there seeing it with your own eyes, it's a lot different than taking a raw image and then trying to post-process it to get it back to what you remember or how you want it to look on a computer screen later. At least for my brain. That's how my brain is, right? It just, while I'm in the field, enjoying the photography and the day out, I want to be able to play with it while I'm there, not come back home in an office and sit there and click away processing. But some people enjoy the post-processing part a lot too. Pen F still worth. I get under 500 US. I have an EM5 Mark II. No, if you have an EM5 Mark II, I wouldn't buy a Pen F. The Pen F is the kind of camera, it's not a camera you upgrade to. It's a camera that you buy if you already have a camera. It's a camera that you buy as a second camera to enjoy for the specific unique capabilities of that camera. In the JPEG engine, the color profiles, the black and white profiles, the color wheel, all of the features, and then of course just aesthetically, if you like how it looks, might be the only reason you want to buy it. But I wouldn't buy it for any technical advantage. I would say the M5 Mark II is technically a better camera by far, with weather sealing, and well, mainly the weather sealing. The viewfinder is better. God, off the top of my head, some of the features, a lot of the features are the same. The Pen F, but the Pen F has, if you shoot with manual lenses a lot, you might appreciate the lens profile feature in the Pen F that the M5 Mark II doesn't have. But like I said, but rule of thumb is I never recommend the Pen F as a upgrade. It's really simply a second camera to enjoy, not an upgrade camera. No problem with Panasonic names, GH4, G9. Yeah, if you only have one camera, but you know, Renee's talking about like GX80, GX85, G80, G85. You know, there's 4 model numbers for the same camera. Basically. Wait, two model numbers for the same camera. Those are two different cameras, the GX and the G. It's not just fancy processing features where capability issues will arise, but be aware that today's lenses are abortion corrected by software and camera versus physical design. Yep. I mean, lens distortion is the most obvious example of that, right? My raw images are corrected for lens distortion, even though they're a raw image. When I pull up my raw images, God, I'm trying to think of an example, but that's definitely one. It's a G81 in Austria, and the G7 is called the G70 in Germany. I know, right? Panasonic is a mess with their naming. I mean, at least with Olympus, you can truncate everything up to the model, right? You can just call it an M1 Mark II or an M1 Mark III, right? You don't have to fill it out, Olympus OMD EM1 Mark II. You can just say the EM1 II, EM1 III. But with Panasonic, man, if you try to truncate anything, you're talking about different cameras. Good morning, Lauren. The G85 and the 12-60 is now $695. I know. The GX85 with two lenses, $499. Yeah, they've been at those prices on and off for the last year at least. And amazing deals. I bought my GX85 with the 12-32 kit lens for like $200, you know, used. I just insane, and it's a good little camera. Not quite as good as the Olympus's, like the EM10, for focusing in low light. I did notice it struggles a little bit more than my Olympus cameras in low light. But aside from that, very capable. Image quality is great. No reason not to buy a Panasonic camera over Olympus, to be honest. Supersonic wave drive. Oh, okay. That sounds more familiar. But that's the old I'd love to get like an old E310 with the Kodak sensor in it. I forget his name because I have trouble pronouncing it sometimes. But he showed me some images from that camera, and the colors are just beautiful. The old E310. As soon as my camera store gets one in stock again in the used camera section, they usually sell for like $100. I might get one. Not that I need another freaking camera though, but $100, you know. Yeah, the Pen-F autofocus is not as fast as the other other Olympus cameras that I have. It's not bad, and I've demonstrated it before. It's not bad. It's fine in its own on its own, but when you compare it side by side, you can tell there's a little bit. It's a little slower. The GX9 has the same bad EVF as the GX8085. The GX8 tiltable EVF is excellent and better than any of the Ollie EVFs. I would have to agree with that. I didn't know the GX9 though. They stepped the EVF back to the older tiering because I didn't really have a problem with the EVF on my GX85, but I can see where people would, because if you go a little bit off center, it does start to tear a little bit. It's not quite, you know, if when you're looking at it straight on, it's fine, and I'm not having as much a problem as other people are with that EVF. Because some people, they can't deal with it at all. When Panasonic understand that phase detector is the way to go, then perhaps, maybe. The 12 to 50 is weather sealed. Yep. I don't mind lenses that compact down. I prefer those over long lenses. In the smaller lenses, on the zoom lenses, I like a fixed size. Like my 70 to 200 Nikon is just one size. It doesn't zoom in and out. I prefer that on longer zooms, but on a little 12 to 60 or 12 to 40, you know, a little pancake size is fine. You know, compress it down so I can take it with me. Normally use the Canon 70D. I don't even know what that is. I guess that's an older camera. I'm not that familiar with Canon. And nature needs another camera. Do I have a gas wish list for cameras, lenses, computers, watches? I have a gas wish list for all of those things and more. I got gas for a convertible right now. Either a 1989 560 SL or a 2018 2019 Miata, you know. The 2019 because I want the 7,000 RPM range. And a warranty. And they're about the same price, right? Those two cars, but the Mercedes 560, man, that's just to me it's the most beautiful car ever, right? That I can think about buying. There's better looking cars, but that's definitely within my scope of being able to finance and spread out over 5 or 6 years the payments. But I have to say, you know, I think that'll just always be a dream. I might have to just buy a little metal reproduction of it and put it on my shelf and just admire it that way. But it's not the same as driving a convertible smooth V8 on an open road and go out. That's kind of just a fantasy of mine, right? Oh, Siegfried, how are you? It's always good to see you. Siegfried, he has an awesome website for Olympus, a lot on the PenF actually, and he participates a lot in the mu43.com forums. So if you're interested in PenF, or Olympus in general, but specifically the PenF settings, color profiles, and then a lot of other photographic skill sets and information, I think you'd be hard pressed to find a better resource than his blog, which I bookmark all the time. And then let me see if I can find the bookmark real quick. No, let's see. It's got to be under my photo tabs. There it is. Lars, if you're still here, look at this page. Let me make sure this is you. Or not Lars, I'm sorry, Siegfried. This is your page, right? Your blog? I'm pretty sure this is it. Let me know if that's the right one. Whether it is or not, it's still a really good blog. So I'm going to put a link to that one here. And then oh crap, my next live stream is starting in a few minutes for the video editing, so I need to get to that. Renee says get the Miata. Yeah, maybe. I want a convertible so bad. I don't know why. I'll probably hate it after I actually own it. Yeah, I have a reliable small car. Well, it's not small, it's a mid-size sedan, a Mazda 6. You know, I bought that for, it's because it's very practical, but it's very boring. It's kind of a long story why I bought it. Because I wouldn't buy that car again. Not because it's not a good car, but it's just not really my style. But I had to buy a 4-door with a big trunk to accommodate taking care of my uncle, which he's passed away now. But I took care of my uncle for about 10 years. And I needed a little bit bigger car because I had a Beetle before that, right? Little 2-door. And I love that car to death, but I couldn't use it to take care of my uncle. It was too small. So I had to buy a bigger car. And now that he's passed, I'd like to go back to a little 2-door coupe or something. Okay, so that is Siegfried's blog. Definitely check it out. Siegfried's confirmed that's definitely his blog. It's really excellent material in there. And then he participates a lot, like I said, on MU43. And his stuff is so good that he gets a lot of criticism. That's when you know you're good, right? When people start to criticize your work and try to poke holes in it, just ignore that crap, you know? Because when people come out and say, oh, your stuff is great all the time, then you know you're not doing enough, right? So he really pushes the limits of what you can do with the cameras. Lauren got the Fusion. Good for you. Buy American. Let me tell you, if you're a US citizen, that is. But I can't do it anymore. I've owned so many German and cars. I do have one American car. I have a Jeep, which breaks down. Well, it doesn't break down so much. The engine is pretty rock solid, but a lot of the electronics are a mess. Okay, I need to go to my next live stream on the live photo editing. So what you have to do is go back to my channel and find the next live stream if you want to join me for that, where I edit your photos. So thanks everybody for coming in today. Had a fun chat talking about everything, and we'll see you guys again on Thursday. And again, look for my video coming out. I put a lot of work into it, as you probably know by now. Thanks again. There's always a button I can't find. Here it is.